Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'll be reviewing for you Super Mario Strikers for the GameCube. I don't have a whole lot of history with the Mario sports games. I tend to not be very good at them, and in fact, I've only reviewed 3 Mario sports games during this channel's history, all of them being tennis games. I don't know, tennis just seems the easiest for me to figure out. And this game is no different. I'm pretty darn terrible at it, but I had so much fun with it that I got the credits. And now I'm here to talk to you about whether or not I think you should either pick it up if you've got a regular GameCube, or play it on the GameCube app on the Switch 2. Now, I haven't played too much of the later games in this series. I haven't played Mario Strikers Charged at all, and I only played the demo of Battle League, so I'm primarily going to be coming at this from the perspective of a newcomer. So the main gist of Super Mario Strikers is that it's a soccer game with 3 major twists to it. The first is that there's no penalties whatsoever. You can roughhouse and break the rules all you want. All the game cares about is, do you score a goal or not? The second rule is it's in the Mushroom Kingdom, so there's going to be lots of Mario characters and items and wackiness. And the third is that it has a very irreverent attitude behind it. The people at Next Level Games who developed this game are known for having quite spectacular animations that often blow even the mainline games in Nintendo's series out of the water. And studios like this prove that you don't necessarily need to have a cartoony art style to have expressive animation, as this game goes for more of a gritty, realistic style, and yet these characters still feel so expressive. Although, some may argue they're expressive in all the wrong ways that Nintendo has tried desperately to never return to. Mario looks like he wants to murder anyone who comes across in his path. Daisy will often jot forward and say, yeah, you want a piece of me? And sometimes the characters will even make gestures that are borderline suggestive. Like, this kind of stuff is kind of wild that it was allowed in a Mario game. But even if you look past the aggressiveness, the characters often have very over-the-top animations for just about everything, except winning a cup. For some reason, all they do is just show the trophy rotating, and that's it. None of the crazy Mario stepping on Luigi's shoe like he did in Mario Power Tennis. Seems like a weird omission. But either way, the characters are full of expression and have way more personality than should be allowed in a Mario game, and I am all for it. And from what I've heard, Mario Strikers Charged doubles down on the personality, and then Battle League sorta gets the middle ground. But I am very happy that this game is so expressive and is a very unique take on the Mario Sports series and the Mario series in general. Now, as far as the gameplay, yes, it's soccer. You kick a ball around and you try to get it through the net. You've seen it before. The basic gameplay is what I would imagine very similar to something like FIFA. You pass the ball between teammates. There's a lob pass where you can kick it in an arch if, say, there's an opponent between your teammate, and at some point you'll attempt to actually shoot the goal. Now, technically there are only 2 players on your team. There's the captain, which is one of the regular Mario mainstays like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Daisy, etc. But then some of the side characters are the rest of your teammates. You might have a bunch of Toads, a bunch of Koopas, a bunch of Birdos, and a bunch of Hammer Bros that all look exactly the same but also function exactly the same. They can only do a regular shot into the goal, but your captain can perform a super shot, which basically means you hold down the B button and then a timing meter will appear, and you have to get as close to the dark green as possible to increase your chances of scoring a goal. In fact, if you do score a goal with the super shot, you actually get 2 points instead of the usual 1. Plus, you get a neat little animation for even just attempting the super shot, and if you're absolutely perfect getting the dark green on both attempts, then you'll get a special camera angle to make it look even more cinematic. Of course, I've heard that the later games in the series have even wilder animations than these, but this is still very nice to see the look of intense focus on these characters' faces when they're otherwise so happy-go-lucky, and even though they do get very repetitive because there's really not that much variation, it is nice that it's not just the Mario baseball approach of have some sparkles and the pitch is slightly different. Like, there's actually some effort put into animating the characters. Each of the goals is protected by critters from the Donkey Kong Country series, and they are very responsive to wherever the ball goes. And in order to trick them, you really have to be on top of your game. Even on the easiest difficulties, it can be really difficult to score a goal. And most of the goals that I did score were based on just abusing the team captain, because the main teammates didn't have a super shot, and the goalie more often than not would block the ball. But it is nice that even on the easiest difficulties, the computer players put up enough of a challenge that you feel like you earned the victory. Even if the second to easiest difficulty is stupidly hard, and I just barely managed to win the first match. Now, this wouldn't be a Mario game if it didn't have something to spice up the gameplay, so it's not just soccer. For starters, you can shove players as much as you want without getting the whistle blown at you. In fact, to further encourage shoving, the arena is covered by electricity, so if you push someone against the edge of the arena, that character will get electrocuted. And the voice acting is so good in this game that it genuinely sounds like these characters are coming out of a torture camp. Like, Peach's screams are genuinely terrifying. And after a while, I started turning off the voice acting because as much as I love Charles Martinet being back, I know it's annoying, but cue the clip.
Let's make a pizza pie together. And then we're gonna make the pizza, I chase you with the pizza, and if I catch you with the pizza, you gotta make a pizza and chase me with the pizza. And then we're gonna make a rasto totolotello. This is a great pasta. I chase you with the rasto totolotello, catch you with the rasto totolotello, then you gotta catch me with the rasto totolotello.
Man, it was hard. Hearing him voice 4 different characters, all having some variation of, ow, this is excruciating pain. You also get items and obstacles that get in your way. It seems somewhat random as to how you get the items. I think it's if you do relatively good at shooting a super shot, or if your opponent shoots into your goal, it's a pity item. In the later games, they eventually just added in the item boxes from the Mario Kart series, but there are various Mario-related items that you can throw at your opponents. Even if it feels somewhat weird as to what direction the items are going to be thrown, and in addition to that, the items affect your teammates as well, so you have to be very careful in where you throw them. In the custom matches that you can do outside of tournament, there are even more items that don't appear in the main cup matches, such as a chain chomp that takes up way too much space, and a superstar, which makes you invincible. There is one hazard, however, that appears at random that affects both teams, and that's Bowser. Yes, for some reason they didn't make Bowser a playable character. Sometimes he just shows up and he's huge. He's not quite Fury Bowser, but he still takes up quite a lot of real estate, and he can do stuff like breathing fire, crushing your opponents, and my personal favorite, causing the arena to completely tilt on its side. Also, fun fact, this is the first Mario game that featured the voice of Kenny James. And from what I could tell on Behind the Voice Actors, this was actually Kenny James's debut as a voice actor. I could be wrong on that, or I could just not have good enough sources, but man, that is very cool to see a pre-Super Mario Galaxy version of Kenny James's Bowser roar. He also plays another character in this game, but I will not spoil that. But let's just say that it is very nice that the Mushroom Kingdom did something a little bit different with its unlockable system. Unfortunately, that's about it as far as the gameplay. And that's one of the things that people complained about in Mario Strikers as a whole, is that it has a lot of personality, and it's really aggressive, and the controls are relatively responsive, but there's not a whole lot to unlock. There's only one secret character. The courses, while they have a lot of variety, are essentially just ovals with different textures. More differences than Mario Strikers Battle League, though. In that game, the backgrounds weren't even visible during main gameplay, and the few differences that there were just different colors of grass. Now you get completely different textures on all the stadiums, which is mind-blowing that a GameCube game can do that and a Switch game can't. After you do the regular cup matches, which are just a bunch of tournaments, you unlock Super Cup matches, which are more tournaments, but now you have to play on harder difficulty levels. There are trophies that you can get, so it's essentially an in-game achievement player, and you can eventually unlock cheat codes, but I never managed to unlock any of those. And so, getting the credits kind of feels a bit arbitrary. Like, they had to have some kind of progression system in there, which, don't get me wrong, after the directionless open world that Mario Kart World had, this was a very welcome surprise. But at the same time, I could see this being the kind of game that is really fun with friends, as you can play with up to 4 players, and I presume you can play online if you're playing this on the Switch too. But single players are probably going to be burnt out pretty quickly, unless they want the thrill of unlocking the secret character and just having the knowledge of being like, I'm gonna face harder and harder opponents until I'm the master of this game. Overall, I had a great time with Super Mario Strikers, even if I am terrible at it. I think that if you have a GameCube, if you can get this at a reasonable price, this is probably a good pickup. I wouldn't say go out of your way to buy it, as this feels like the definition of a rental. Like, sure, it has more content and more personality than Mario Strikers Battle League, but I feel like from what I've seen of Mario Strikers Charged, that game has more personality and more zaniness. So if you love the chaos every couple of seconds like Mario Kart Wii has, that game might be more for you, but this is a good start to a franchise, and I do hope the Mario series returns to this grittier, more aggressive attitude in the near future. The happy-go-luckiness of the more recent games can be kind of sickening when that's all you tend to see from the Mario series. Now, as far as should you play this on Switch Online, absolutely. I didn't notice any particular problems with emulation, and in fact, I'm actually kind of grateful that Nintendo offered widescreen support in a GameCube game, so that I can see this take up the entirety of my screen instead of those stupid black borders that Nintendo insists on having on their Nintendo Classics games. So if you already have the expansion pack, yeah, this is a great little bonus if you have a Switch 2 and don't want to spend $80 on Mario Kart World. And you get to hear Charles Martinet again, so that is always a treat. 20 years later, Super Mario Strikers is a fun, albeit very, very rentable game that I think you'll have a pretty great time with, and then you can go trade it in for a better game if you got the physical version on the GameCube. So with that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you think about it and your experience with Mario Sports down in the comments. I can't say this enough, but I love starting conversations with you guys, so I do hope you will say something intelligent. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!